Pogona henry-lawsoni is a smaller species of bearded dragon found in central Queensland. Its scientific name comes from the famous Australian poet Henry Lawson. However, its common name is much more complicated than that. These are all the past and present names for just one species of lizard, for one single species of lizard. How did we get there? It turns out the correct name is not what you expect it to be. It starts back in 1978, with a herpetologist named Richard Wells being given several specimens to identify. The original collector, Dr. Grant Husband, had collected them on a herping trip to central Queensland and needed help identifying them. The area they were found in is known as the black soil region due to its unusually dark soil and lack of vegetation. This was not the first time this species was found. Other herpetologists, such as Eric Worrell, had found the lizards before. However, nobody quite knew where they belonged on the taxonomic tree. They were believed to be a subspecies of the western bearded dragon. At the time was referred to Amphibolurus minor. At the time, the Amphibolurus genus was home to most small dragons, otherwise known as agamids. However, due to the distance between the two species' home ranges, it became apparent that it had to be a distinct species. Towards the end of 1978, Wells expressed interest in wanting to formally name the specimens. He wanted to name it after Dr. Alan E. Greer, his co-worker and creator at the Australian Museum at the time. Dr. Greer declined, so instead he decided to name it Amphibolurus dumpii after its dumpy and round appearance. However, while writing the last of his paper in 1978, his beloved co-worker, Peter Rankin, died on a herping trip to New Caledonia. Wells wanted to pay respect to his co-worker and friend and changed the proposed scientific name from Amphibolurus dumpii to Amphibolurus rankini. However, before the paper could be published, the name rankini was leaked. It became widely used terminology for the little dumpy dragon, and the common name Rankins dragon began to catch on. A new scientific name must not be based on a common name that already exists, and this resulted in the scientific name Amphibolurus rankini becoming rejected. This breaks the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature and is known as a nomen nudum. Wells had to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new name and a new paper. He also had to work on doing various other species of reptile, and the project slowed down. In the coming years, while this was all occurring, Glenn Storr was also researching the Amphibolurus group of reptiles. Glenn Storr was the curator at the Western Australian Museum and is well known for his work with varanids. The Storr's monitor was named after him in recognition for his work. He had come to the same conclusion as many other herpetologists and believed that certain reptiles in the Amphibolurus group deserved their own genus. He chose animals with larger and more distinguished femoral paws. These included various Amphibolurus species, including Viticeps, Mitchellii, Nullarbor, Barbata, and the Barbata subspecies at the time. Their genus changed from Amphibolurus to Pogona, coming from the Greek word pogon meaning beard. He also worked to turn the Barbata subspecies into their own distinct species. This resulted in the western bearded dragon changing from Amphibolurus barbata minor to Pogona minor. Minimus and Microlipidotus also broke off from barbata and became subspecies of western bearded dragons, Pogona minor. As you can imagine, this was a big change for the whole agamid community. The news eventually reached Wells, who now had a new genus for his unnamed dragon. He and his co-worker Cliff Ross Wellington eventually went with the scientific name Pogona henry-lawsoni, after the famous Australian poet. Henry Lawson was a famous bush poet who wrote most of his poems during the late 1890s and the early 1900s. He also wins my own personal award for the world's best moustache. This name was eventually published in 1985 despite pushes from other herpetology teams to name the species Pogona brevis. You might even still see today, sometimes the species is referred to as Pogona brevis, however this is incorrect. Wells and Wellington were also pushing for many other taxonomic name changes at the time, most of which were quite controversial. However, this was one of the few that passed the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature and became accepted in the wider community. After a long battle, Pogona henry-lawsoni was recognised in 1985, about 35 years ago. Yet we still haven't chosen a suitable common name. Rankins dragon is technically incorrect, despite it being so common in other countries. It falls into the nomen nudum. It was leaked to the community before it was official and is now invalid. Pygmy bearded dragon is also incorrect. It's never been scientifically recognised. It's the common name for a variety of the smaller Pogona species, particularly westerns, and can't be exclusively used for one species alone without confusion. Richard Wells has spoken saying that he believes the following names are technically correct. Lawson's dragon, after the scientific name. Plains bearded dragon, after the black soil plains region where they are found. Dwarf bearded dragon, after its small size. He also returns to the idea of the common name of dumpy dragon. Many wildlife databases, such as the Australian Reptiles Online Database and the Atlas of Living Australia, list the main common name of Downs bearded dragon. I couldn't find any mention of where the name Downs bearded dragon originally came from, however it might be from the Downs region of southeast Queensland. Another commonly listed name is black soil bearded dragon, after the region they come from. So what should we call them? What is the correct name for Pogona henrylawsoni? Technically there isn't one. While Rankin and Pygmy are technically incorrect, they are still the most common and widely accepted in the community and have been for decades now. That's not something that can be changed overnight and really doesn't need to be changed, if you ask me. If you want to use a more correct name, I recommend using one of these choices. They've all been regarded as technically correct and used in many journals and databases in the past.